Hello, everyone. Miss Helen with the Texas Toast Podcast. It's a bottoms up episode. Myself and producer Kyle sit down and talk with Sam Cox with Rogue Artist Group. We dig into all things booking.
And Sam walks us through his whole journey, whether it's being an artist, being a booking agent, being an artist rep, and his perspective on pretty much all aspects of the music industry is very fascinating. So we get into all of that in this episode. There's so much to learn.
You don't want to miss it. Listen all the way through. Sam Cox is joining the Texas Toast Podcast today. We haven't done one of these in a while. We call them the bottoms up episode where we dig into things in the industry. And Sam has so much that we're gonna pick his brain. We're gonna talk to him and hopefully help some of our musicians out there and also venues because we're gonna dig into booking. But Sam is with the Rogue Artist Group. And Sam, you have your own podcast, Independent Musicians Guide, Talent Buyer, married to the most amazing girl, Autumn Ragland. But let's start off. Let's talk about booking because yes,
Great.
music is entertainment, but music is also a business for musicians and they need to run it like a business. And there's always that point to where, well, it's time to get a booking agent. Any tips that you can give artists and when should they be ready? At what point do they reach out to booking agents and what should they be prepared for?
Man, okay, so that is a super, super loaded question. But
I know.
uh,
One at
so
a time.
well, as far as like on the booking side of stuff, I always tell folks that bottom line, never be in a hurry to give away your money unless you actually are just in the position to where you're like, man, I really, really, really need somebody. And there's a lot of different reasons that could fall under that umbrella. But if you're just now getting started, or if you've been started for a little bit, but you're still kind of like in the first stage or two of your career, I would say, and this is kind of some harsh advice maybe, but if you're not getting booked a ton, it's not because you don't have a booking agent. I think you should just like maybe look at hiring out a photographer or a videographer or somebody to design your website. There's a lot of other things that go into actually booking you as an artist that have nothing to do with, quote unquote, having a booking agent. A lot of it has to do with maybe you just need to like work on presenting yourself a little bit better. And that's I don't know, really harsh advice to start this whole entire thing with, but yeah. So I don't know your
No,
thoughts on that.
I
Yeah,
don't think that's harsh at all. I think that's reality,
yeah.
especially how you present yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, and yeah, I think a lot of people think, if I get a booking agent, man, the wheels are going to start turning, and I'm going to
Mhm.
get this and that. And I think that a booking agent's just like Superman's going to come in and swoop him up and save him. And but again, I don't know. There's a lot of different things that go into it. I think if you're not getting yourself booked, like I said, just kind of take a look at what you've got to offer, and think, well, maybe a booking agent is what I need. Maybe I need better quality music. Maybe I need to hire a videographer to come out to my show, to come shoot me some. I would say the right way to maybe go about trying to get a booking agent, there's a two-sided coin because if you're really, really, really making some waves, and I know that you guys know this, I'm kind of preaching to the choir, at least as far as you two goes, but if you're really making some waves, booking agents know about you. Your name is being passed
Ah,
around the office at so and so agency, or me and Kyle talked about certain artists, and people in the industry talk, and I guarantee you, like, if most people that I know that have a booking agent that are kind of like that mid cap artists, the agent found them, and I know that's a really bad, discouraging piece of advice, but that's the
But
truth.
I really
So
think that's not too discouraging because that gives you something to
no, it's
reach
not.
for as the artist. That gives you like an objective, a mission, rather than just sitting back and saying, I just got to, like you said, I just got to find a booking agent. And
right.
kind of on that note, do you want to quickly tell us about the do nots?
Phew, man.
Specifically thinking about that thing you posted the other day. That was hilarious.
Oh God! Oh my goodness. Okay, so do not. Well, first of all, don't be mean to people. Don't be pushy. People only have so much time that they can allocate to being inside my email box. I can't be on my email 24 hours a day. I'd like to be, I should be, I need to be, but I can't. Each venue has a limited amount of space that they have on their stage for every Friday and every Saturday. It's 52
Mhm.
weekends a year, and there's thousands of musicians trying to play on that stage. And so I think that you should really. I think patience is a virtue, as cliche as it sounds. I think that sometimes it's a mixture of being patient and learning to present yourself the right way. and just staying on the grind. I think if you do those three things, I genuinely think that you will get in the places you want to, and you'll see small wins come across on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and it'll just kind of start to compile and snowball. And yeah, just be nice, man. I talent buy for I wear a few different hats outside of being an agent, and I'm an artist rep in general. So like I manage an act or two, and I also talent buy. So I see a lot of sides of it. And on the talent buying side of it, the worst way to really turn somebody off is just being mean, and being super pushy. And yeah, I posted something the other day, but it was really just, I guess, to kind of get some laughs. But uh, yeah, I don't know. That's probably the worst thing you do, and really just try to waste people's time too. I think time is the most valuable thing that we all have, and if you're trying to be pushy while wasting somebody's time, it's probably the worst way to get yourself in the door. So
So where is
uh,
the good happy medium? Like you as a talent buyer, let's say you get an artist presents, sends an email with their EPK and their videos, and what is that happy medium? Like a email and maybe a phone call follow up. I mean, what works best
yeah,
without just overwhelming and being that pushy?
yeah. So if you're trying to get yourself into a venue, I would say somewhere between like 7 to 14 days. I think, let's say it's like Monday, and I hear from Kyle's trying to book a show at X venue, and I hear from him again by the end of the week. That might be a little bit too much, but sometimes putting like a weekend in between times of reaching out, I feel like is a good thing to do, because you kind of give the person's brain time to reset where they're not in the office, so to speak, and then it's like, oh yeah, there's that guy again. I liked him, and if somebody ends up clicking on your music and they actually like you, and you present yourself right, and you didn't bug the hell out of them and stuff, I think that you have a way better chance of kind of getting your foot in the door that way. So I don't know. I guess to answer your question, probably like a week to 2 weeks. But sometimes there's a fine line, because if you don't stay consistent enough, you're going to get buried in the emails. Some people will send an email to a place, or however that venue decides that they want to be contacted, and they do it one time, and it's like they didn't respond. It's like, well, I guess this place doesn't like me. They don't want to have me because they didn't reply. And so yeah,
So one
it's
more thought on that. I've fallen victim to this trying to, do my own booking outreaches and stuff. I'll send an email and have a list of who I've reached out to, but then I won't reach out for a month. Not because I think that's the appropriate amount of time, but just because that's when I'm able to get back to it. For artists in my place, at least, do you think it's a good idea for them to have that kind of running sheet and almost send? I guess my question is, does it need to be a personalized email? Does it need to be a typed out directly to you, or is it okay if it's maybe possibly like a copy paste situation?
okay. That's a fantastic question. Okay, so
Hmm.
I have a Microsoft Word template of, if I'm reaching out for whether it's Jarrett or Autumn or Tyler or whatever, and it's kind of it's a template, but there's variables in there, whether it's a dates plural sometimes, whether it's a certain venue. If I know the talent buyer by name, I make sure to put their name in there. But if it's a copy and paste, they can tell, like a talent buyer can tell, or another manager or agent, say that you're trying to get on like a support slot within a bigger artist, and somebody's hitting you up. It's you can definitely tell that, hey, this was copy and pasted. And when you can tell, it makes it feel unpersonalized, and it makes me want to give back the same effort that you gave me, which is nothing. I was just a email that you got from a website or something somewhere, and it makes me not want to reply to it. But if it's like Kyle reaching out to me, hey, my name's Kyle, and I would like to play this venue, and here's why I'm relevant to your market, and here's the dates that I would like to target for booking myself or my band or this other band that I represent. Here's some info below. I'd love to hear back from you. I mean, it's just as simple as that sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's important to make the person receiving it feel important and feel like
For
it's
sure.
something that is special to
Yeah,
the person that's submitting it, not just throwing it against the wall and see if it's going to stick and see if somebody's going to give you a call back.
for sure. And you know what? Another one thing that really kind of catches my attention, if somebody's trying to get like open for one of my artists or play at a venue that I talent buy for, is if somebody hits me up and says, um, "Hey," within the first line or two, it's like, "Hey, Helen sent me your way," or something. That always really kind of helps, because if it's just a cold call or cold email, I always try to go through everything. But at the same time, if they are like, hey, people from Texas Toast podcast sent me your way, I said I need to talk to you. That's always really good. If you know somebody that has been in the doors somewhere, one of the best things they can do as your friend, in which you don't ask too many favors and kind of burn yourself out, but sometimes you can be like, hey Kyle, so I'm really trying to get in this really cool place in Houston. I noticed you played there. Would you mind sending the talent buyer like a text and say, hey, pass your email along to so and so? That always goes a long way. So a reference, you can't beat a good reference. I think that's probably like the biggest piece of advice I can give to anybody is a good reference trumps any kind of good music or music video you can put together or anything.
I was reading the other day that it takes at least $1 million to break an artist. That's a ton of change, and it can feel overwhelming. But with social media leveling the playing field, you just need an effective strategy to release your music. Check out Release Rocket to ensure your single does not die after release day. You've already put time, effort, and tons of money into writing and recording your album. Let the guys at Release Rocket keep your new release alive.
Well, let's address another issue that goes into booking, and that's budget. I know that's a battle because some certain venues are not realizing the importance of paying musicians. How does a musician go about navigating those waters? Just walk away, work some more, go back and hope they can get their full budget one day?
So that's also kind of a loaded question, and I see it both on both sides of it too. There's two types of venues as far as I'm concerned. There's types of venues that anybody and everybody wants to play, and the venue knows that, and it's also like potentially a ticketed venue, so their budgets are always going to be smaller because it comes out of a overhead for the night, whether that's ticket sales or whatever. There's other places, whether it's a bar and grill or a brewery or a sports bar or a honky tonk or anything. Most of those places typically have like a lined out budget for the week or for the month or for the year and that kind of stuff. So there's always a fine line between opportunity and whether this show is going to pay my bills or not, And I think that you should know before you hit somebody up if you're trying to play this show to further your career or to pay your bills, because a lot of the times, especially for an up and coming artist, it's really hard to get both in the same show. And so I think that you should send every email, every text, every Facebook message, whatever it is, with deliberation, if that makes any sense. Like you should know exactly why you're trying to get. Like if I'm trying to play at Billy Bob's, I'm just throwing out random stuff at this point, so bear with me. If I'm trying to play a show at Billy Bob's in Fort Worth, and I want to play for $2,000, and they don't want to give me $2,000, I'm like, well, screw that. They're not giving me what I'm worth. That's one of those. It's like a lot of artists would play that place for free if they could, And so, but if I'm trying to play at some and down in the stockyard or something, then you have maybe a little bit more bargaining power because it might not be as of a tier of a place as Billy Bob's. Am I answering your question, Helen? I hope I am.
Yes. Keep going,
Okay.
because it kind of goes back to that, and we hear this a lot in the business, and I'm sure Kyle will agree with me on this one. It's like, well, we'll give you exposure. At
Right.
some point, you have to be able to gauge and look at, well, is this venue worth it or not? Because that happens a lot. Let's face it, it
For
really does.
sure. Yeah. I saw this thing on Twitter the other day, and it was really, really funny. I forget who posted it, but it said, it's funny, it's like some venues that want you to play for exposure also want you to bring the exposure with you. And I'm like, man, that's a good one. Because they're like, I want to bring in here, and we don't have a big budget, but they also don't have like a crowd, that comes there either. So um I think you just kind of need to. It depends on where you're at with your career. If playing a support slot is worth, or opening for X band that has like a good draw, if that's worth lowering your, money expectancy at the end of the night, then I think that you should do that because most artists, I say most artists, definitely have to go through that point in their career at some point. But I will say that, once you get kind of a little bit farther into your career, the easiest way I would think to get booked is it's like a ticketed venue. Kyle currently has a show at Do coming up, and I know rooms like that are a lot of times like very, very little, if any, guarantee, and you just get like a percentage of the ticket sales. And so the easiest way to get into a venue sometimes is to say, I want a $0 guarantee and I'll play for, percentage of sales, or, because that's how kind of a lot of rooms in Texas are. So some venues are like, you want to make money, like come make money, make as much as you want at the door, or on ticket sales,
Yep.
nobody's stopping you. But other places have a budget typically, and they won't bargain on, well, we pay, $100 an hour, $100 a man, or, whatever, and which has been the same since 1982. So I don't know. You gotta kind of pick your battles, you have to figure out if you're where you're
Mhm.
at in your career and what places you're kind of targeting to get further. And again, realize that right now, if you're kind of doing music as part of your income, or if you're doing it as a side hustle, and you have another job that kind of helps you.
Right. That was great answers. And the thing I've heard from so many musicians that are close to me, some have started out, some are established, and it's like just don't get discouraged. I just don't I hate it when a musician gets discouraged and their band's just like, we just can't break through, and it's hard.
I say this from an Autumn Ragland perspective, because she's been running around in like the Texas Red Deer scene for like 7 years at this point. So most of the stuff I'm able to talk about is from the start of her career up until now. She's definitely not like a household name, so to speak. But man, it seems, especially in the earlier days, it was, man, why can't we just get into this place, or why can't we like turn this person's head, or why can't we get this X opportunity or whatever? And thinking back on it, I mean, this is like really just kind of cheesy advice, but anything that she might have accomplished or we've accomplished together, actually accomplishing it, or getting your foot in X door, or playing with so and so band or whatever, that was always cool. But what's even better than that is like the journey that you had to take to get to that place. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So the
Mhm.
I don't know. I know it's really
I
cheesy, but
I
No,
tell
no.
man, I tell my girlfriend that every single day when she's like, "You're just insane. Like, what? Why are you?" She's she's not actually giving me a hard time. I'm sure you and Autumn have the same type of conversations, but it's like, it's much more the journey. That's
right.
that's the satisfaction I think for people in the industry, or the artists themselves. And I was going to add, to the point you were saying about getting into certain venues and stuff. And one thing I think we talked about when I was on your podcast a year ago or whenever that was from the tour manager perspective. You see these headliners in Texas
Yeah.
playing, like a really rough gig, like 20 people making $0, losing a ton of money to pay their band that night. But then the next night they're playing opening for somebody and it's a big cool crowd and they're still making no money. But then the next weekend they're playing a private gig and it's like a kind of a soul sucking gig, but they're making all that money back. So
Right.
that's the game.
Mhm.
You're brand new artist. You could go play for $100, 3 hour acoustic gig, but then somebody in that crowd might love you and hire you to come play their birthday party next weekend for
Right.
much more money. So
Yeah.
it's a cool perspective to have, I think, looking, forward as an artist. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I
And
love that.
it's rough because because you can't guarantee anything. At the end of the day, you can't
it's
you
a toss
can't
up.
guarantee that you're not gonna just run yourself dry, and just run in circles for the next decade and actually get to where you want. But also, you kind of have to ask yourself, what is my definition of success? And I think that everybody wants to be the next Randy Rogers, but nobody
Mhm.
wants to like give himself time to, you know
Yep.
what I mean? A lot of people are trying to. There's that old saying, like, before you try to like boil the ocean, you got to boil the water in the pot first. And I think a lot of people want to just look at the big picture, and think like, I want to do this big thing. And going back to what we were saying a second ago, like, it's hard not to get discouraged. But when you think about, again, from Autumn's perspective, it's like the first time she got to play Blue Light or something, one of the like the big venues in Texas. It wasn't necessarily the fact that she got to play, it's about the dozen times that we played in Lubbock and slept in the van.
Yep.
Mhm.
And we played in smoky bars and ate nasty ass food and couldn't afford a hotel. You know what I mean? It's about those things that kind of built you up to getting to finally do the thing, whatever that thing is. You know what I mean? So I don't know, just I think use that discouragement to just as fuel, dude. I mean, that's as lame and as cliche as that sounds, you just gotta stay at it. There's consistency. Consistency will just topple everything as far as I'm concerned. So
always being consistent, always doing your best. And I loved that you brought up Randy Rogers, because when I was in radio, one of our partner venues was Great Brothers in El Campo. And of course, Randy Rogers, Wade Bowen, when they were first starting out. And then later on, as their careers progressed and they were playing one of our big county fairs, they'd come on for
Yeah.
an interview. And it's like, especially when they would come back for Greek Brothers, they always loved coming back because they remembered that journey. They remembered they were going to get fed there.
Yeah, right.
They didn't know where their next meal was coming from. Literally, that was like stories that that artists would share with me once they got to where they were
Yeah,
going. And that, I just love that whole journey thing. I
yeah,
love how y'all put that in perspective. Yeah.
yeah,
Like, I knew I was gonna get a good meal playing at Greek Brothers, and that's why they still to this day go back and play there, because they
yeah.
remember getting those good meals when they didn't know if it was gonna be Funyuns and Dr. Pepper or whatever it was gonna
Oh
be.
yeah, breakfast champions, dude.
So switching gears a little bit, something you said made me think of it, but you're talking about how there's no guarantee and it's kind of just the hope and you search for motivations in these small parts, but like the guarantee that you personally have kind of been creating for yourself is spreading yourself as thin as you possibly can. You do like 80 different
Barely.
things, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
right? So me, the same. That's how
Mhm.
I've kind of made sense of like some sort of a safety net. I guess maybe it's an illusion, but do you want to dig into a little bit more about, I'm sure Helen's got a whole list of questions for you, but I kind of wanted to
No,
get into
no, that's
more all the perspectives that,
yes,
because you can
absolutely.
talk from every angle of the situation with the artist being in the center.
Well, so yeah, it's one of those things where I'm kind of now wearing a few different hats. I was telling somebody the other day, I'd like to take some of my hats, just throw them in the fire, dude, because I need to not be as busy as I am, but at the same time, the connections that kind of comes within the relationships that you build and stuff really definitely make it worth it. I will say that when you're an independent artist, you have to do those things. And I'm gonna switch over to kind of the artist side of it for a second because I mean, you take we're gonna say Randy Rogers again. That dude's got a publicist, he's got a booking agent, he's got a manager or two, he's got a tour manager, he's got a merch manager. You know what I mean? He has like a dozen people that probably work under him. But when you're like an independent artist, you're doing all of those things yourself. You are your own publicist, you're your own booking agent, you're your own manager, all that kind of stuff. And I think that if you do those kinds of things, kind of like I'm doing, right now, the benefit of it is if it's done right once you pass those jobs along to somebody else. You know what I mean? Autumn's never had management outside of just her and I. Never had a booking agent outside of her and I. And if one of these days it gets passed along to somebody else, we'll know if it's being done right. If that makes any sense. So we spent forever being our own videographers and our own video editors and our own website builders and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. You learn 1,000 different tricks along the way, and you kind of have to spread yourself thin to be able to do everything. If you're wanting to kind of cover the bases as an independent artist, I think if somebody gauges an artist's career based off of whether their website looks cool or how many Facebook likes they have, or how you have to make sure you try to hustle in every scenario and in every corner of your career. I hope I'm making sense. Am I making sense?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
you have to have a closet full of hats as an independent artist, and you have to kind of put on whatever hat you need for that moment. You have to again learn how to edit videos. You have to learn how to be good at social media. Have to learn how to be a people person when you're not a freaking people person, and uh, yeah, you have to be your own walking publicist sometimes too. So
In
yeah.
other words, it's just really, really, really hard.
Oh yeah, no, it's
So,
for sure. Yeah,
and again, now for the fans that are listening in on this, that will make you appreciate your independent artists way, way more. It's not, and that's the thing we've talked about before. Yeah, everybody sees, their favorite band or their favorite artist on stage. They go to the show, but at that point, what happened before that, like you said, all those hats and taking on all those job tasks.
no, no, for sure. And I think the number one task that people want to give away is booking. Circling back to it, a lot of people view it as like the hardest thing in the world, as if it's just so hard to hit up people. And it is. I think people quit booking because they hear so many no's over the course of, I mean, years. Like, God, I can't tell you how many thousands of emails I have in cyberspace that have never even been read. I don't even want to know. But um, the thing about stuff like that is if you do it right again and you are, I don't know, nobody's going to be a bigger advocate for yourself, is what I'm trying to say. Like, it doesn't matter who you hire. Nobody's going to believe in yourself more than you. And kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. Don't be in a hurry to give your money away, or give your
Mhm.
time away either. What is the biggest question that, or the biggest, I guess, gripe or concern that you guys hear on your end about people that you talk to that need agents? Like, what are some of the stuff that people say whenever they're looking for somebody to fill that position?
I just don't have the time, and then the no's, the
Yeah,
discouragement. That's
yeah,
what I hear.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
then on the artist side of things, it's a lot of that kind of, and I'm victim to this too in my own mindset. It's like, oh, if I had an agent, it would just be so much easier. But then again, I'll sit down to start typing up an email, and like you said, that most important chunk is qualifying, and then right after that, it's being able to, like, back to the harsh reality. It's like nobody wants to book you if you're nothing to book. Your music might be amazing, but if they've never heard of you in that market, you're not getting any radio play, you've got 10 monthly
Mhm.
listeners. Like, unfortunately, that just doesn't make sense from a business perspective. So you think that you just need an agent or whatever, but it's just that grind. And I hear people just saying that all the time. Like, I just need an agent. I need an agent. It'll make things easier. But I have to remind myself all the time, like you keep saying, you don't want to give your money away. Like, I've heard of so many people signing management deals where they're paying like a monthly fee, or like a booking agent where it's like a per show rate, not like a commission, but just a flat rate. And it's like,
yikes, yikes! Stay away from that.
yeah, right.
Don't do
It's just
that.
there's no, nobody's going to sell you better than yourself, like you keep
Right?
saying. And if you're paying somebody a flat rate or a salary or whatever to do those types of things for you, then that totally takes away from the purpose of the job, because those people are stepping in once they believe in you, even half of how much you believe in yourself, to push what you believe in further.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
would advise anybody that's listening to this, if you're trying to book yourself, or if you've given up on booking yourself, or whatever the case is, try to make it a job. One thing that I had to do, especially in the earlier days, was because we were self-employed musicians, so between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. every day, outside of lunch, for 7 hours a day. And I say 10 p.m. because nobody wants, or 10 a.m. I'm sorry, nobody wants to hop on a call before 10. I mean, I just, especially if they're in different time zones and stuff. I'm not trying to call people in Colorado at 9 a.m. But give yourself a time of the day that you are allocating for booking. Or if it's like, hey, I have a day job, but I'm off Wednesdays and Thursdays all day, or whatever that is, that I'm going to take those days and put in 14, 15 hours a week into booking. And I can guarantee you, once you get a bunch of texts, calls, emails, Facebook messages, whatever, MySpace messages, I'm just kidding, whatever it is that you're sending out, and you start getting yeses, I think that you should try to find some common denominators between what gave me a yes from this place and what gave me a yes from this place. And you're like, oh, well, I reached out to these two people and I have this thing included in my email, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? And then really try to lean on those types of things, because there's no formula to booking. I mean, mostly there's not, but I think that you have to learn who you are as an artist and what's appealing about me, and why would a talent buyer or venue owner, or whoever it is, want to book me,
I have to remind myself regularly that every artist out there that's written and released a song thinks that their song they just released is just as cool and good as the song that I just released.
Yeah, yeah. And it's rough. Like I said, there's 52 Fridays and 52 Saturdays, and thousands of artists that want to play on those stages, and it's
Yep.
hard. It's hard. It's very hard not to get it. Dude, sometimes I even get discouraged because I'm just like, what am I doing wrong? I was talking to a very good mutual friend of probably all of ours. I don't want to name any names, but, and I was like, why is this place, what's wrong? What's going on? Why
Yeah.
can't I get a show? And it just makes no sense. And I'm guilty of it too, man. I think even bigger artists are super, super guilty of feeling like they're not doing enough. You know what I mean? This is a weird random tangent, but hang on for a second. So like I was talking to a friend of mine the other day that just started putting music out on Spotify. Well, about, I don't know, 9 months ago, and they were like, "Hey, man, so how do I kind of get up into like the thousands? Like, I just really want that comma on my numbers, like my Spotify listeners. I want to, get a greater than or equal to 1,000, whatever." And I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, there's million different ways you can do it. And it's funny, you know, I listen to other artist friends of mine that have a pretty decent amount. They're like, how can I get into like the hundreds of thousands? And then I was talking to like somebody that Autumn was doing a show with the other day that everybody knows. And we were talking in the green room. She's like, all my colleagues are in the millions. Why can't
Hey, it's the climb, man. It's like we
Yeah,
said, it's the chase, it's the climb.
it
It's not
is.
there's
And
no
you know what?
end.
It's I think part of that, whenever I put all that together, it's like trying to just train yourself to there's a mix of having your eyes set on the next thing, but being content on where you're at.
Mhm.
And I have to remind myself this all the time, but if you're always in a hurry to play at that next place, you know, once you do it, it's not like, ah, cool, I'm satisfied. Cool, I can go home now. Like it's not going to end.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's there's a balance of like, you know, as the kids say these days, like having that dog in you, but also just trying to be a realist on like, this is where I'm at right now. I'm not going to blow up overnight tomorrow. And if I do, what respect comes with that exactly? You know, the respect comes in the grind. Correct me if I'm wrong, Helen, but I feel like the reason why, again, Autumn's not a household name, but I feel like the reason why you like her, why Kyle likes her, is because she has worked her ass off for the last, you know, 7 years or 8 years or whatever. It's not that she's, you know, headlining the Madison Square Garden or anything. I think it's the grind that comes with it. But
That's what I was going to say. The
yeah,
grind, and she's so authentic
yeah,
and true to her craft and true to her music.
I agree. And it takes one person at a time, you know, one fan at
Mhm.
a time.
Something that I was thinking about too as we've been discussing this and we got into the discouragement and that. And I think it's good too, especially in our Texas Red Dirt scene, that we network, like the artists and everybody in the industry networks so well, and they can pick each other up when they're down.
For
If you're
sure.
in with the right people that are in the
Yeah.
right mindset and on that journey.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I was gonna ask, and we're running short on time here, real quick, but just had me thinking about your family and all the crazy stuff you've got going on in your life. And is there a way that like you and Autumn, especially with the kids now and stuff,
Mhm.
found to decompress a little bit from just the nonstop, you know, chase of everything, the shows every single weekend, the 6,000 emails sent every day? Is there just like any advice or any pointers you guys have found that like really work to just like chill out?
I mean, we're very blessed. We have a very good support system. You know, we can take a day off or weekend off here and there if we need to. I would say just realizing that you're not going to get it all done today. Everything that you're wanting to accomplish, you're not going to get it done today. And we have to remind ourselves that every single day, because it's just like we have so much that we want to do. I think it's very healthy to, I'll leave y'all with this, but it's very healthy, at least in my perspective, to have here's what I want to get done by the end of the week. Here's what I want to get done by the end of this month. By the end of the year, here's my goals. And then like, here's my long-term goals, to be honest with you. Like when I'm looking back at my plaques in my office, like what do I want to see, you know? And I think it's healthy to have that different tiers of goals. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but
Absolutely.
Makes total sense.
yeah.
Total sense.
So,
Sam, it's been amazing having you on the podcast, and we'll have to do this again. We'll pick another topic next time, don't you think,
oh,
Kyle?
for
And
sure.
Kyle joined
Yeah.
us for this. This was too fun. So, another episode of Bottoms Up with the Texas Toast Podcast. Thank you, Sam Cox.
You bet. Thank you guys
Good
for having me.
seeing you, brother.
Hey, you too, man. See
Woo!
you.